Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Despite Celtic making a blockbuster announcement in the signing of Shane Duffy yesterday, we're no slowing down yet. We're still going. There is news coming out this morning that is rather interesting. It means there could be some players on the go from Celtic. We could be seeing the departure of a fair few. But we're here to talk about the ins and the outs, so let's do that right after the intro. So, still buzzing about the signing yesterday that Celtic announced in Shane Duffy. We were waiting a few weeks for it to come through and happen, but it finally was put over the line. The contract has been signed. We've got him for a year. Hopefully that will go on, but we'll talk about that more as this video goes on. It's just got me in the mood for a drink tonight, you know. It's just a signing I didn't think we'd pull off this year, but as we got closer and closer, it looked more realistic, and I'm very happy. But despite signing Shane Duffy, a centre-half, the centre-half talk is not dying down. We are in now discussions, perhaps, we've at least inquired about the possibility of signing another centre-half for the club, which probably means a few things on the other side of it. You know, we could potentially now be seeing the departure of Christopher Ajer. There are murmurs going around that his agent is pushing even further for a move for Christopher Ajer to leave Celtic. But Celtic are looking at a potential replacement. And who is that, may you ask? Well, you've probably heard by now, it has been on Sky Sports News this morning. It's been around a few of the newspapers, another few media outlets reporting on it. And you've probably just seen it on Twitter altogether. But Celtic, of course, looking at the big Sampdoria centre-half, Gambian international Omar Colley. You might not know a lot about Omar Colley. I certainly myself can't sit here in front of the camera and pretend I know tons about him. I don't watch that much Italian football. Yes, the interest has probably went up a little bit since Ronaldo moved to the league, but even at that, it's not something I spend a lot of time watching. So I'm not going to sit and pretend in front of the camera that I know too much about him. I've done my research. I'll give you what I've found out, what I have gathered, and what I would like to see from Celtic moving forward, and potentially what we would get if we do sign Omar Colley. But it's not one of these videos. I've said this plenty of times in the past. I'm not going to sit and pretend in front of the camera. I'm not going to pretend I know every player around the world, that I'm a scout myself and I see these guys on a regular basis. That is not the case, and it's the case for the majority of Celtic fans. I don't believe there is many Celtic fans out there who can give you a full, educated sort of lesson on what to expect from Omar Colley, or any player that we sign, because we don't really sign players from, unless we're signing them from Scotland or England, the rest of the world, there will be people out there. I'm sure there's plenty of Celtic fans who probably love the Serie A and watch it week in, week out, whenever they have the chance, but the vast majority don't, and I am one of that vast majority. I don't watch Serie A football, and most you'll get out of me is a wee bit of Bundesliga talk, a wee bit of Premier League talk, and that's it. But the big man could be coming to Celtic. Standing 6'3" at 27 years old. I announced him like he was a wrestler there. It was like Howard Finkel talking about him walking down the aisle. But 6'3", 27-year-old, finishing 15th in the league last season with Sampdoria. Celtic have officially inquired to the Italian club about the possibility of bringing him into Celtic as another centre-half option. But the club have came back and said, or Sampdoria at least we know, value the player at £10 million. They said that is up for negotiation, so I imagine if we were to go any further with this, Peter Law, Neil Lennon, and whoever is involved in that process will undoubtedly want to bring that down. We know what the board are like. They're stingy. You know, they want to save every single penny. The famous phrase, every penny's a prisoner. That should be on Peter Law's bedroom wall. I'm a big graffiti saying, right, he needs to have every penny's a prisoner. You know, it would be brilliant to bring him in. If we do lose the likes of Christopher Ajer, which we'll come on to, we need to improve. And this is a guy who's pretty much experienced at the highest levels. You know, he's played in one of the best divisions in the world. Of course, Sampdoria finishing 15th isn't exactly setting the world alight. You know, he's not playing for your Juventuses, your Lazios, your Inter Milans. He is at that lower half of the table, but it's a very competitive league, and over the last couple of years has been in a bit of a renaissance. Since the arrival of Ronaldo, you know, you've seen the likes of Inter Milan and Lazio really challenge the top of the table. Inter Milan just off the back of a Europa League final. It's a very good league now. After a few years of being, I would just say, dead. I don't think there was much interest in the league. It really has revived itself into being one of Europe's top 5, and one of the top 5 to actually watch. You know, it was always up there. You know, we always look at the top 5 being England, Germany, France, Spain, and Italy. To watch it wasn't exactly desirable. Now I think it's starting to get back to that point. So he's not playing for one of those teams that's setting the world alight, but he's certainly been there and done it. He's been around the block. He's 27. He's in the prime of his career. and his stats aren't too shabby either. He's been a regular starter at Sampdoria since joining the club in 2018. Prior to that, he was playing for Genk, where he actually had a very impressive run in Europa League, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But they're two very good clubs. We know the standard that these teams set in Europe. Well, Genk set in Europe. You know, they're a good team, quarter-finalists a few years ago. But you know, that two good teams, two solid teams to play for, and 52 appearances in the Serie A last season. That is rather decent, if you ask me. You know, playing there week in, week out, you're not exactly getting someone who's coming here to try and revive their career, or, you know, trying to pick themselves back up. This is somebody who's been playing regular football at a very high level, and I'm sure if we were to lose Christopher Ajer and bring him in, it's nothing short of a decent replacement. Celtic, of course, competing in the Europa League this year, and this is a point I just touched on a moment ago. Colley was part of that Genk side who reached the quarter-finals in the 2016-17 season, a very impressive run where they were then knocked out by Celta Vigo, who went on to be eliminated by the winners that year, Manchester United. You know, that's a very impressive run, and we're in the Europa League this season. This man has played Europa League to a point where Celtic haven't reached since the year 2003. For me, that's a pretty decent move. You know, if Ajer does leave, and that's the point we're going to come on to now, we're not going for someone who's, you know, a gamble. We're not going for someone who could be a dump signing. Of course, any signing can be dump. We never know what we're getting at Celtic. On paper, Duffy looks like a great signing. He could be dumped for all we know. I hope not. Touch wood. There's there. But, you know, this is a guy who's been playing regular football for years. And to go to that level in the Europa League with a team such as Genk, who really didn't have the right to get that far, let's be honest, is a good indication of what to expect for us, especially if we're trying to forge on in Europe as well. If we're trying to go forward, develop, and get better than what we were last year in the Europa League, get past that last 32 stage, which just seems to be a curse for us. These are the kind of players we need to bring in, players who've been there, players who've done it, and have played at that level. The fact they want £10 million from would indicate to me that even at Celtic are inquiring about it, that Ajer will be off. I was expecting that after the weekend there, that Ajer would be staying. It looked as though he was happy to play, he looked really good. In his celebrations, he looked happy to be at Celtic, but of course, I think Ajer will conduct himself with the highest of professionalism. You know, he's not going to be taking liberties. He's not here for the sake of it. He's not just waiting for a move. I think that he will want to play his best to try and get the best possible move for himself. And if he does leave, fair play to him. I think he can be replaced. I would rather lose Ajer than Encham. A lot of people will disagree with me, and we probably will see both of them leaving this window if this is Ajer going. But to replace him with Colley, I think it's not too bad. To me, it's probably a move that could be a lot worse. You know, we could have been replacing him with Scott McKenna. And it's not a guarantee we're going to bring in Omar Colley. Of course, it is just rumours at this point, but I would much rather the likes of McKenna or any other, you know, championship player down south or something. I think we're going for the best we possibly can. Of course, Celtic looking to perhaps make Duffy a permanent signing next year as well. So there are some positives along with the negative of Ajer leaving. But Omar Colley, what do you think? Would you like to see him at Celtic? We've got a few other things to cover. Celtic are apparently still interested in the three Premier League stars we've spoke about over the past few weeks on the channel. Those three players being James McCarthy, Christian Atsu and Ryan Fraser. Ryan Fraser still without a club after leaving relegated Bournemouth. Celtic were linked right at the start of the window, but it was seen that his wages were just going to be too high for Celtic. He wanted to play in the Premier League, remain in the Premier League, but time has went on now. We're 2 weeks away from the Premier League season starting, and he's still not signed for a club. The team that are leading the interest is Newcastle. Apparently he wants a move as far north as possible so that he can be near his family in Scotland. Take the move to Scotland, wee man. We could be using you. Ryan Fraser in Glasgow, I'm sure you'll be near your family. Look, it would be a fantastic sight. I don't think it'll happen, but there is still interest. Celtic apparently will make contact from what I have heard. I don't expect much from it. I wouldn't get your hopes up for anybody who's thinking Premier League star Ryan Fraser, oh my god. He had a disappointing 1920 season anyway. It would still be a cracking addition to this team, there's no denying that. McCarthy, a player who I've wanted at Celtic for years. Now that we've brought in Turnbull though, I don't know if there's much of a need for him. I think if Encham leaves, yes, I would love to bring him in. Replacing Encham with McCarthy, that would be incredible. I think that'd be good. I would probably rather have Encham at the club, but there's no denying that one of the best replacements we could get for Encham departing would be him. There's not many centre mids of Encham's quality out there, and I don't think McCarthy's quite that quality because he's been injury prone. He's a little bit older. It's probably a step backwards, but it's certainly the best of the steps backwards because it could just be, you know, utter garbage we bring in. And this is once again a player, he's played at the highest level for Everton in the Premier League. I don't think the Premier League is the be-all, end-all, but you look at what he's done throughout his career, all the way from Hamilton through to winning the FA Cup with Wigan. He's moved to Everton, his international career with Ireland as well. Unbelievable player, and we've been incredibly lucky to have a player at Celtic. Once again, no wages or something, it's just a bit mad. And then finally, the last Premier League star I briefly spoke on there, Christian Atsu from Newcastle, who's still wanting to move away from the club. There's been reports in his home country of Ghana, I believe, could be wrong, I hope I'm not. There's been reports there that Celtic are still interested. Once again, don't get your hopes up, it's all talk, it's all murmurs. Will it happen? I don't know. And finally, a bit of, not even transfer news, a bit of a laugh to end off this episode of the Celtic Transfer Talk. Biram Kayal wants to return to Celtic. Remember him, eh? What a player. We sold him off, obviously. He went down to England. He's done well for himself down at Brighton. A player who, you know, was loved by Celtic fans. At times he looked unbelievable, but it's one of those ones. It's not going to happen. It's not. If you see this, if you pass, as I'm warning you now, if you pass a headline saying about Biram Kayal to Celtic, don't think it's happening. He's literally just came out in an interview and said he would love to play for Celtic again. That is it. There's been no official contact. There has been no, you know, Neil Lennon's looking at him and all that. I wouldn't be surprised if Neil Lennon brought him back. That seems to be the end thing. We go for the old, you know, we've had all the talks about Gary Hooper and Joe Leslie in the past, and Charlie Mulgrew I've seen pop up at some point. But no, I thought it was quite interesting. Biram Kayal saying, tell Lenny I want to come back. At the moment I have some interest, but I need to wait as clubs are waiting. But everyone knows I would love to go back to Celtic. It started my career in Europe, and it would be amazing to do 10 in a row with Lenny. I'll have the phone on waiting if he needs me. Biram Kayal, would you take him back at Celtic? I personally wouldn't. I love him, but he's a good player, he is. There's no denying that. I think his technical ability was unbelievable at times at Celtic, and he's probably not lost that. He's been really highly rated off fans down south as well. But, you know, it's got on a wee bit. We've got better players at the club. It's somebody we wouldn't need. I wouldn't expect us to go for him anyway, but now that he said that, I wouldn't be shocked if Neil Lennon does give him a phone call. Just wait and see, but don't get your hopes up or nothing. Anyway, the big story, Omar Colley, could he be on his way to Celtic? Christopher Ayer, is he on his way out of Celtic? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see y'all. Like and subscribe, by the way. I'll see y'all next time.